Ms. Rajwani.
We just have a couple of fourth graders with MCAS tomorrow.
Oh, great. So come right up, microphone, and each just introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Lucy Rajwani. I live in Precinct 7, and I am here to present why you should say no to Styrofoam. Did you know hundreds of Styrofoam trays are used by Shrewsbury Public Schools like this each day, all by themselves? That's a lot of waste, not to mention the damage to the environment. From the very start, Styrofoam has been harmful. Styrofoam is based on crude oil. When Styrofoam is manufactured, it creates air pollution because 57 chemical byproducts are released. Not only that, people are getting hurt making Styrofoam. When you burn Styrofoam, toxic gases form. Styrofoam puts a huge amount of waste in our landfill because it takes a lot of time for it to decompose, at least 500 years. School is a place that teaches kids good habits, good mental habits, good physical habits, good habits for them and the people around them. Styrofoam is a very bad habit for the environment. There are other healthy for the environment materials to make our school's lunch trays out of, such as corn waste, recycled cardboard, or recycled newsprint. In short, say no to Styrofoam and yes to a cleaner town. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have a couple more.
My name is Declan Daly, and I'm a fourth grader at Spring Street Elementary.
And I'm Noelle Daly, and I'm a sixth grader at Sherwood Middle School.
Like many of our friends, we both buy lunch from the school cafeteria a couple times a week. As we all know, our schools have come to use polystyrene, also known as styrofoam, for our lunch trays when they serve us food. Over time, researchers have figured out that each time we place a hot food, such as pizza, chicken patties, and hot dogs, on a styrofoam tray and then ingest the food, it releases chemicals and toxins into our body that eventually can cause cancer. This is not a healthy choice for all the kids who buy lunch at our public schools.
Did you know America uses and throws away 25 billion styrofoam trays each year? That's enough styrofoam to wrap around the earth 436 times. Styrofoam is not biodegradable, and it appears to last forever. A lot of the styrofoam from landfills end up on the coastline. The polystyrene is carried from the landfills to the streets through storm drains and is then drained out into the ocean to marine wildlife. 80% of marine debris originates from land-based sources. This affects animals in the wild due to broken down bits of polystyrene, obstructing their airways, contaminating their resources, and causing cancer and digestive problems. In the end, styrofoam isn't just harming people, it's also harming wildlife.
Please consider using an alternative other than styrofoam. There are plenty of healthy recyclable options that would help save our environment. We ask that you say no to styrofoam and keep our earth clean and green.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other members of the audience tonight who would like to offer comments to the committee? Mr. Moss.
That's a tough act to follow, but I will try. The toughest one. Brian Moss, 16 Ruthven Circle. I just had a couple of questions. Before the petition was presented, through the town meeting process, were there any plans by the school district to move away from styrofoam?
So this is a public hearing. This is not a Q&A. We're here to take your comments on the matter. If staff would like to answer the question, they may, but I'm not going to put them on the spot.
Yeah, no, we haven't had any plans previously to move away from styrofoam.
What are the current plans for the new Beale school that we're building, as far as whether we're going to have reusables or styrofoam, or just trying to figure that out?
I would just say that by the time that school is built, town meeting will, like the state may have taken action. Right now, the current plan is not to include a dishwasher, if that's the question.
Okay, thank you. Just another thing is, I know the petitioners that mentioned in one of their other presentations that they had, gotten this bylaw from the town of Amherst, and in looking at the town of Amherst Public School District, they are currently able to serve on the compostable alternatives in their school district, because they are, affected by the ban in the town of Amherst. So that would be an example that people could look at. It's a little smaller than Shrewsbury, but it's an example. So I looked around for bigger examples, and I contacted the Boston Public Schools, and they don't use styrofoam trays. They use compostable trays. And, of course, New York, the New York Public Schools was the ones that started the whole thing, where they got New York City to ban styrofoam, but they also have moved away, the entire New York Public Schools, away from styrofoam. So I hope that you, consider that and alternatives as a viable option. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments for the committee? Sir.
Hi, good evening. My name is John. I live over on Walnut Street. And so this is, I think most of these guys recognize me from the Finance Committee. So this is only my second time actually coming and sort of being engaged in our town politics after sort of being here for a while. And I had to take notes to make sure I kept myself on track a little bit, so I hope you don't mind. So I think like one of the things that I noticed in one of the presentations was this concept of consumers. And that I think is the most important word that I've heard tonight, is that it's not only that the students are consumers themselves in terms of that they are the customers that are being served, but they are the ones consuming these products. I found it coincidentally, I don't know if anyone saw this today, that in the Journal of Pediatrics, came out today, that 88% of those affected by climate change are going to be those under the age of 12. So when we think about using these kinds of resources when we feed our consumers, we need to think about, are we prepared to have an impact on 9 out of every 10 kids we encounter in our schools? And so with that in mind, we need to sort of think about, how this is a complex and real world problems. Those are also words that I heard tonight, and sort of this other word of irrelevancy. When I think about my 5-year-old son and how he's entering the school system next year, there's nothing irrelevant about him engaging in our school system. And there's nothing irrelevant about him using a product that is toxic when it's made, when they eat off it, and then also when it's disposed of. So there's nothing irrelevant about that, and that's very real world for me. There's nothing complex when I come to this microphone and I talk about what my son is going to be confronting as he faces the real world. One thing I also want you all to think about is that we have like Earth Day. We have compost facilities at our schools. What is the inherent contradiction and hypocrisy if we're celebrating these things and then serving our kids chicken nuggets on something that can't be broken down by Mother Earth? And I'm not like an eco-warrior. I wasn't sent here by, the Sierra Club. I'm just like an average, bearded, dad of a 5-year-old who was upset tonight because I couldn't read him, his Ninjago Lego book. And so I'm just imploring you to sort of give some serious thought to that this cost-benefit analysis, and I was a teacher at one point. I work in the public sector now. I work with students every single day. And so when I think about the cost of the health and education of my son, I would gladly, if I had it, write that check for $45,000 every year to make up the cost difference between styrofoam and a recyclable or renewable product. But unfortunately, I work for the state, so I can't afford razors. That's why I look like this. So I just implore you to sort of think about that. This is complex. This is real world, but there's nothing irrelevant about it. And so as you move into the meeting next week, I want you to sort of think about my son, think about 9 out of every 10 kids that walk through the door and how this impacts them and how this is going to impact all of the children around the globe moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Further comments? So, folks, during a public hearing, we don't allow either applause or booing. I did overlook that when the kids spoke because they're kids, and I would applaud for them myself. But going forward, there's neither applause nor booing in a public hearing. Would anyone else like to make comments to the committee tonight? Sir, coming up to the microphone.
Good evening. My name is Manish, and I'm father of Siddhant, so I'm a little biased. But I don't know about you. For me, when I first heard about what they were doing, it was a learning for me. I did not know styrofoam causes this. I work for a big company, and I've been drinking on those styrofoam cups for a while now. I had cups sitting from vendors and others, which I was not using. After seeing the presentation for the first time, I personally have moved away from styrofoam. I do not drink coffee in those styrofoam cups anymore. I take my own cup and clean it at the end of the day. But given that this is a school committee, and one of the responsibility of schools is to educate our kids, I don't know if every one of you knew what styrofoam does. At the very least, I think we should be telling the kids, if we continue to serve in these styrofoam cups or trays, are we causing them harm? I was just reading, Googling while I was sitting there. I saw that at least out of those 27, in 3 towns, the Board of Health has banned these, and not the town as such. So there has to be some harm, I would say, whether it's proven, not proven. But if in 3 towns the Board of Health has banned it, there has to be some negatives. So even if the town does not pass this ban, I would recommend that the school at least gives the alternative to the kids. Maybe stock both. Tell the kids, this is compostable, this is styrofoam, and if you eat styrofoam, this is what could happen. Let them make the choice. So, and again, I applaud these kids. I'm actually passing a resolution in my own office to have this banned. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Further comments from the audience tonight? Going once. Going twice. Okay, with that, we'll close the public hearing tonight. I will remind folks who are watching either at home now or who happen to watch this at a future broadcast that be prior to our meeting on May the 16th, which is next Wednesday night, we certainly invite members of the public to offer feedback to the committee. Best way to do that is via email to the school committee email address. So again, we do encourage further feedback. Do any members of the committee have comments that they want to offer any further tonight? Dr. Sawyer, anything before we move on?
But just thank people for their comments. I do just want to, it's more of a point of inquiry. I know the gentleman who spoke mentioned someone making a comment about something being irrelevant, and I'm not quite sure I heard anyone say that. If anything, obviously this is relevant to our community, and it's a debate that will be had at town meeting, which remains, I think, the purest form of government that we have in the country, and we'll see what they determine relative to what happens. But I hope if someone was misheard, that certainly isn't my perspective, that it's irrelevant. And again, I commend the students for doing work beyond what is plenty of work that's assigned to them their junior year of high school to take on this project and follow their passion relative to what they want to see the town do. I look forward to the conversation with the committee next week.
Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. We're going to move on